This was a group with tentacles around the world.
A humble example of leadership that the world has never seen.
A breathtaking enmeshment of church and state.
There were congressmen, senators, world leaders.
And they say it's about faith, but there's a shared understanding that what we're really about here is power.
I'd like to single out Doug Coe.
Doug Coe and all of his associates.
Doug Coe is the longtime leader of the family.
He's the most powerful man in Washington you've never heard of.
The new Netflix documentary series, The Family, examines the secretive Christian group that for decades has held tremendous political power in Washington, D.C. and around the world. The Family is best known for sponsoring the National Prayer Breakfast, which every president from Eisenhower to Trump has attended. But its impact is much more widespread and much more controversial than people realize. Joining me now is Jeff Sharlet, whose book, The Family, is the basis for the documentary, and Jeff Moss, the director of the series, The Family. Thank you guys both for being here. Jeff, I saw this, and it scared the hell out of my husband and myself. We sat and watched it. We're like, oh my God, we watched it all in one go, because it is frightening. Let me quickly get it out of the way to read this response from the Fellowship Foundation. I have to read this. So the Netflix docudrama, what is this series, mischaracterizes the work of the Fellowship and attempts to portray people of faith in a bad light. We're encouraged by how often viewers are introduced to and challenged by the person and principles of Jesus, which are at the core of our mission and message. Let's go to you on this, Jeff. How did this thing start? How did The Family begin?
The Family began way back, 1935, in the midst of the Great Depression, when the founder decided that the economic malaise of the Great Depression was a punishment from God on America for basically for FDR's policies. And he gathered together a group of businessmen who he felt that God had told him were chosen for leadership. He believed that Christianity had been getting it wrong for 2,000 years by focusing on the poor and the down and out, that God wanted him to minister to those whom he called the up and out, the elites, and to bring more power for the powerful so that they could organize the country and the world on principles that they believed were those of a Christian kingdom.
And so, you know, I read the statement where they say these are the principles of Jesus. Jesus did not minister to the rich, he ministered to the poor. He said, love the poor and the immigrant, not the rich. You infiltrated this thing, basically. You were there in one of these young people's houses in The Family. Did you get the sense that they essentially worship the wealthy, that they say the wealthy are better and are of God and are the select?
I never saw any poor people during my time spent with them. In fact, we would have workshops in what's called biblical capitalism, this idea that capitalism is foretold in the Bible, and that the way that you help the poor is by making the rich richer, so that of course that they can do good works. When I was living with them, I was in one house among many, an incredible selection of real estate built clustered around a mansion in Arlington, Virginia called the Cedars, where I saw leading politicians, senators, congressmen, even foreign heads of state. This was very much about power and not the poor.
Yeah, Jesse, I'm going to play a little clip of it. Let's play that really quickly. This is clip one.
I've seen pictures of the young men in the Red Guard, 22 years old in China. A table laid out like a butcher table. They would bring in this young man's mother and father, lay her on the table with a basket on the end. He would take an axe and cut her head off. The Viet Cong, Hitler, Mussolini with the black shirts, the one thing in every one of their oaths is we pledge to be totally unified even to death. That was a covenant, a pledge.
That was one of the scariest things to me, Jesse. What was the sort of most alarming thing that you learned in directing this film?
What's troubling is the secrecy of the group. They do not talk to the news media. They've operated in secret for decades. That's a very intentional strategy. And we thought it was our responsibility to look at the work of the Fellowship. Jeff's book was the foundation for our series, but we wanted to know what is their relevance today. Finding the answer to that question took a lot of digging. Why was a Russian spy at the National Prayer Breakfast? What was Congressman Robert Aderholt doing in Romania? But these are not easy answers to find, and yet I think the series really does reveal some of what the extent of influence of this secretive organization is.
What it has done, talking to my viewers, it has brought transparency and revealed that the enemy is within. They're using Christianity as a shield an umbrella to stand under, but in reality, what they're doing is manipulating various political parties as well as the public so that they can achieve their agenda. Let's listen to the rest of this, please. This is very deep, dark, cynical. It really goes beyond just being a sorcery, demonic type of an occult that is disguised as something good, but in reality is evil right to the core. It really goes beyond all of that. Please listen.
How much power do they have, Jesse? I mean, you show in this series them, pushing anti-LGBT laws as far as Africa and in Europe. How much power do they have over our government and over foreign governments?
Well, as Jeff points out, they don't operate by the same rules as other Christian right organizations. They play a longer game. They're not lobbying on specific legislative issues. So assessing their influence and their power requires an understanding of their theology. And I think that's what the series does, offer insight to a theology that explains how the Christian right could embrace a president like Donald Trump.
Yeah. And Jeff, is it just about worshiping wealth and amassing wealth and substituting that for worshiping God, or is there something more to what it is they're about?
The family began and has always been around an idea that centers American power around the globe. Even as it's the most international of Christian right organizations, it's based in Washington, and it's based on an idea of brutal realpolitik, alliances with the most murderous dictators around the world, figures whom they call, and this is their language, they call such leaders wolf kings. And in Donald Trump, in their embrace of Donald Trump, you see their embrace of an authoritarianism that they've always seen fit to promote globally. Now they've embraced it right here in the United States.
And Jesse Moss, do these people believe in democracy, or would they rather have power over democracy?
Well, I think democracy demands that we look at their relationship with American politicians, finding the answers to those questions. What is the substance of that relationship is not something they make easy to do. But I think there is a tension. If they're working towards God-led government, I think that's in conflict with our Constitution and our separation of church and state.
Yeah.
You see, whenever our forefathers designed and manufactured Constitution, even leading into the early 1800s, they had no earthly ideal that we was going to be taken over from within, that these occults was going to come in and disguise themselves in such of a mystical deceiving type way that the people was going to allow for this to ever occur, to the point that they're using the umbrella of the Constitution of freedom of religion to be able to obtain their goals. We had no earthly ideal that we was going to be taken over from the inside like this, but now, after 30 plus years, we're seeing the consequences towards what that they have done. And they have done just exactly that. They have come in, they have masterminded their ideology, and they have basically bamboozled or deceived the good people in thinking that they was the good people. And the whole time, instead of they being the good people, they was the deceivers. They was the wolves in sheep's clothing. They was the ones that put us where we are right now, towards being $22.5 trillion in debt and 2.3 million people incarcerated either in local, state, or federal jails. They are the ones who have contaminated the Constitution, manipulated the Constitution, to the point that now we got total chaos on every forefront that we can think of. From a political stance, to a spiritual stance, to a economical stance, to a international stance. We've got problems on every front that these people have created. And it all stems, and I know a lot of people disagree with me whenever I say this, but it all stems from the Illuminatis. The people that are at the tip top of that pyramid that bleeds down from the Illuminatis to the Bilderbergs to the Fortune 500 to the Shriners to the Masons to the Eastern Stars. It all bleeds right down that pyramid to the effects that we're seeing right now. And I guarantee you, in this little area in West Tennessee, you can drive around and look around, and those who are associated with this secret society, and that's exactly what it is, it's a secret society, will be living in nicer homes and driving nicer automobiles than anybody else in the community. So you tell me what's going on pertaining to the 1%ers versus the 99%ers. This is the reason why that I stood up in Sacramento, California, out towards San Francisco where the Golden Gate Bridge is, and actually went along with this movement whenever it first began of the 99%ers that was against the 1%ers, because the 1%ers has moved in to not only the attorneys' seats, but they've moved into the banking industry seats. They've moved into other strong arm positions to the point that now the wealthy and the rich are basically stifling, starving the working class and the poor class to the point of where we are right now. To the point of where we are right now. And I know there's been a lot of emphasis here lately about the homeless and about mental health, especially out in California, out in, I think it's Orange County or LA or somewhere out in that area where the homeless society is just awful. And people are scratching their heads and wondering how come. Well, we offer these people assistance, government assistance, that they can live in these Section 8 homes and they can get off of the streets. Why won't these people do that? I'm going to tell you why those people won't do that. Those people refuse to sell themselves out to the rich man pertaining to what they know has went on here. And because they are prideful people, they rather starve on the streets than take a free handout from the rich man, from this type of corporation pertaining to these secret societies that are now trying to brush off. They're trying to brush off the filth and the dirt that's on them. And now they're opening up these facilities towards saying, oh, you can come off the streets now and we'll help you, homeless. We'll help you, you drug-induced people. And the whole time, it was the people over here in America that sold us out to begin with. Until this gets a full 180-degree, full-face turn, to the point that people can see this from the inside out, not the outside in, but the inside out. We're going to continue to go down this path of destruction that these morons, that these evil, demonic, wealthy people have created for the working class and for the poor class. Please, let's listen to the rest of this. This is very interesting.
Not only that, but everything that's...
Let me back up just a little bit.
They make easy to do, but I think there is a tension. If they're working towards God-led government, I think that's in conflict with our Constitution.
What they're working towards is the taking over of the planet by the Antichrist pertaining to the mark of the beast, the number 666 or 999. They have made a pledge. They have made a pledge that Lucifer will be proven to be the supreme being above and beyond all other beings, and that they plan on eliminating at least 1 billion people from the planet. Now, you tell me what's going on. I know what's going on. We've got an underground society that is basically setting up, embracing or enhancing the millennium. And they're doing it right up underneath our eyes right now, even as I speak, pertaining to all the gizmos and the gadgets that they have created, pertaining to smartphone and artificial intelligence, AI. They're doing it right up underneath our noses, waiting for the big day, waiting for the smorgasbord to come out. That way they can purge the weak, they can purge the demented, they can purge the unfortunate, they can purge the poor, and completely make a stance on the world stage towards being an abomination of desolation that the Bible talks about that's going to occur according to the book of Daniel and according to the book of Revelations. That is a fact, Jack. That is what's actually going on amongst these secret societies that these people are talking about right here.
God-led government, I think that's in conflict with our Constitution and our separation of church and state.
Yeah, not only that, but everything that's written in red in the Bible. That's the challenge here, is that they're saying they're about Jesus, but they're also about the people who are not supposed to be able to go through the eye of a needle, the very, very rich having it all. Jeff Charlotte, Jesse Moss, I highly recommend people watch this. It's called The Family. Please check it out on Netflix. More AM Joe after the break.
We trust USA more than any other company out there.
I don't trust them. I don't trust USSA no more than I trust State Farm or Farm Bureau or any other insurance agency out there, because I guarantee you, whenever there is a major calamity such as Katrina or all the fires out west or other natural catastrophes that is hit, one of the first things the insurance companies does is start screaming and hollering, we need the taxpayers' money. We need to bring the debt even more further into the hole than what it already is. That way we can still have our nice homes and our yachts and our BMWs and our Mercedes Benzes and all our other amenities, and we can put our children to colleges and teach them how to be legalized extortionists just like we was. In the meantime, they attack the system. It's a feeding frenzy upon to the system, kind of like whenever I was driving around in Martin, Tennessee for the past 2 days towards them opening up UTM University. Oh my God, everybody and their brother had a sign out of a rental property for rent, housing for rent, rent an apartment. Some of them even put up big glorious looking signs. That way it really got the students' attention. Come, come, we need your money. They're all standing out there with their hands out, including the churches up there in Martin, Tennessee. Come, come, we'll help you, we'll help you. And the whole time, you know who they're trying to help? You know who they're trying to help? They're trying to help themselves. That way they can maintain the status quo pertaining to those brand new Chevrolet $45,000, $50,000, $60,000 trucks. They can maintain their status flow pertaining to living a luxurious lifestyle while everybody else suffers. We know what's going on. The wicked has become even more wickeder to the point that they're still thriving off of the working class and off of the poor class. And you know, it really breaks my heart to drive in Martin to see all them kids that I know good and well probably won't, but maybe a third that will make a success out of the attempts that they're trying to make towards bettering their lives and bettering their abilities towards being able to have good, decent jobs. But the good, decent jobs are gone. So you can get all the education, you can have all the diplomas hanging on the walls that you want. But you're still not going to get the good job because the good job went away. And unless you've got some sort of guarantee that once you finish with your scholarship, that you're automatically going to be able to work for NASA, or you're automatically going to be able to work for some other kind of big corporation, 2/3 of the people that are putting forth a good foot in the University of Martin, Tennessee, pertaining to UTM, will be nothing more than a laughing stock, and they know it. The people in Martin that are in control of these people's lives, including their deans, including their master teachers, as well as their professors, they know it. They know it. Especially whenever you get to looking at the figures of $22.5 trillion in debt. They're very aware of what's going on, and they're just fishing them in. They're luring them in. It is so sad what this country has turned into. I am absolutely ashamed of these type of people that thinks that they can go in and manipulate the population to the point that from the inside out they take over and display themselves as being sheep, but inwardly are nothing more than ravening wolves. And to think that these people are doing it in the name of religion tells me that the pits of hell will not be hot enough for these type of people that are engaging in this type of activity. Once more to my viewers, good luck to all of us. Thank you for listening. And shalom.